Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our Human Performance webinars. My name is James Grigson, and today I'm joined by Carolyn Seng, and we'll be going through a session planner within the Smartabase system. Really want to encourage a lot of discussion and questions coming through the chat functionalities and Q&A functionality, either on the right-hand side or the bottom hand of your computer. If you're watching this after the fact and you're on YouTube, please put in your comments in the comment section, and we would love to get some free-flowing discussion in this webinar now, within the presentation and in the Q&A, and then also through the YouTube comments after the fact. So we really encourage comments in those areas of the different modalities in which you're watching this. And then we're also going to be sending back a survey for those that attended this webinar. And we would love to hear some ideas on future webinars that you would like to see. So please include ideas and topics that you do have. If you're somebody who wants to present their own workflows, we'd love to hear ideas that you have as well, and would really encourage that. Today, Carolyn's going to take us through an example of a session planner. This has a rugby league slant to it, professional sports slant, rugby league being a sport played predominantly out of Australia. Carolyn has worked with the Brisbane Broncos Rugby League Club for 3 years prior to her time and 1 year with Fusion Sport, and has taken her experience after seeing a number of different session plans in that environment and been able to manipulate those philosophies, those thought processes, that experience into a number of different session plans for a number of different environments that like to plan out their training sessions. So for those viewers that are on the call that are in sports other than rugby league, which is a large percentage of people on this call, please don't hesitate to write down some contextual questions throughout the presentation and for the end at the Q&A, because I think you'll really benefit from hearing Carolyn explain contextually how some of the principles she's going to address today will fit in your scenario. And I think will make for a great webinar. So the example today is some of the best practices that Kaz has seen, and it will then flow into how that works when we're looking at predictive loading for your athletes. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Carolyn. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for that, James. As James mentioned, I do have a background in professional sport, primarily as a performance analyst. So not so much a sports scientist, but an analyst. So that often involved me helping the coaches plan their session with a primary focus using Excel. But in my time at the Broncos, I have seen every kind of version, all the way from your paper, handwritten version on the back of like some junk, and then also even that really complicated Excel version with your historical or predictive loading as well. So something that I was really excited about joining Fusion Sport was to try to see how this can be applied in Smartabase. And as a former client builder as well of Smartabase, this is something that wasn't possible when I was in Clubland. And with the new features that our dashboard builder has now, I believe this is really up to the point where we can start to try to put some of those Excel templates into Smartabase. So why choose Smartabase to do your session plan? I don't know how many people can relate, but the number of times I've planned in Excel and then a different coach has opened up the same version in Dropbox or the server and overridden my version, and we all have different versions floating around and we're not really sure which one to use. Smartabase will provide a really nice online platform and a single source of truth. So we can really make this nice and slick for your coaching staff or your performance staff, and have this on your front page login as we see here. And this can be the first thing that they see every time they log in the morning and when they're planning. And I think for a lot of people, this might really help getting some coaches brought into the system as well. So again, as James said, this is a really rugby league specific example using my experience, but I want you to keep in mind that there are definitely elements here that I hope you can apply in your setting as well. So we'll start off with our dashboard here. So this is our front page dashboard, and I've broken it up into a few different sections. So one of the things that I found really important in my experience in my time is making sure that this is really nice and printable. Often you might want to scribble on your session plan as things change. I can't remember how many times I'm looking out on the field, looking at my session plan and going, this is totally not what we planned, or this drill's in the wrong order. So we've made this nice and printable so you can print it double-sided and fold it up into your pocket. So if you're out on the field or you're filming the session or anything like that, you'll be able to whip that out. So with our different sections in the session plan here, I've made some sections visible on my printout and some that are just going to be seen on just the dashboard. So I've just got some basic stuff up the top here, just some session details. So when the session is and the date. So important, the number of times that I've personally printed the wrong date, which is really silly, but we've stuck that up the top here. And I've also put some little location details and notes. In the notes, you could put anything you like. You may even want to put which players might not be partaking in particular drills and that kind of thing. And I've also got some estimations up here. So just a distance and a time estimation, and also a number of players. So if anyone's trying to drum up some equipment for the session, they can see 34 players, all right, I need 34 bibs, or vice versa. So we've got our drill summary section here. I've got several different clients who've structured this in different ways, but I've just tried to keep it really nice and simple. So I've broken up my session into blocks. So if you like to break your session up into blocks with rest breaks or drink breaks in between or some coaching breaks, you can do this here. And I've also popped the time on the left-hand side so we can see the time of each drill, and then popped in some nice conditional formatting as well. So I've got some categories or standard categories that I'm interested in, and I've colored them up with that conditional formatting. I've also got a block here, or a block type. Some of my clients have just done this with colors, but I've just put the words in here just to help you understand. So with the blocks, with particular blocks, you might want to structure them in a rotation style. So if you've split up into groups and you want each group to do both drills, we make it a rotation. Or if you want to split into, for example, positional groups, while each group does a different drill concurrently, you can also split it up with that three group split, for example, or a 2-group split, depending on how many groups you have. And this will help us with our predictive loading. Obviously, we've got each drill and then a little description that your coaching or performance staff might want to put in there as well. In my experience, often some coaches like to plan who's going to run each drill. So you can also put a little column in there with their initials. I've just got like head coach, assistant coach in there if you want to make that really clear so everyone's on the same page. And I've also popped in some just meters per minute as just a basic GPS metric to show that we can display that on the session plan as well, if that's what you're interested in. And obviously that meters estimation, which is based off meters per minute times the time. Down the bottom here, we've just got some nice little pie charts that show you how you can break up those categories if you're interested in breaking up the distance or the meters and even the time, just to see how much time or in a percentage that you're spending in each category. And some of my clients have liked to break this up into things like bar charts and other different widgets as well, just to save some screen real estate. So down the bottom here is some teams. So I've actually put this on this second page of the printed version of the planner, which I'll show you at the end. So we've got a training list here, which shows just who's going to be participating in the training session today. You may want to pull this from your physio availability. Often I find clubs like to have their physios put in the availability for all the players for the next day's session the day before. And we can really automate this for you and pull that from that player availability. I've also got some teams lists here. So if your coaching staff like to know who's in each group, if you are splitting into different groups, or you would like to read those groups out, you have that on your piece of paper that you can read to the players so they know who's in each group between each of those block breaks. Sweet, so that's the entry for the dashboard. I'm just going to delve into the, sorry, that's the visualization for the dashboard. I'm just going to delve into what the entry looks like. So just like we've mentioned in previous webinars, we do have that click-through feature. So if you do click on a line here, for example, we can use click-through to see a brief summary of some things or points that you might want to see in your dashboard. And then you can also go and click into the record as well. So I'm just going to click go to record. So here at the top is your entry for your session planner. So in this top left-hand corner, you'll see that we have a little edit feature. So if you're planning sessions ahead of time and you know that there's some sessions that, or the session that you're currently planning is really similar to a session that you're going to do in the future, you might want to copy to clipboard and then paste it when you go plan that next session. You might also have sessions that, or days, for example, in a field session or a skill session that are really similar, and you might want to template certain elements of that up. So what happens with templates is you'll fill out your entire session, and then you'll go up and you'll be able to create that new template, and you'll be able to have that save in here. So when you click it, it'll pre-fill your entire template, which is really helpful and can save a lot of time. So up the top here, I've just got those basic session details that you saw before. Obviously, just tried to keep it really simple, but there might be a host of other things that you might be interested in seeing up the top of your session plan that are really important to you. And then I've also got a little multiple athlete select field here. So the way I've designed this session planner to work with this field is post-session, after you've done the session and you know who definitely partook in the session, you can go ahead and select which players participated, and it will actually save all of those metrics and numbers against each of those athletes. So when you want to do some planned versus actuals, if you're interested in that, you'll be able to compare what you planned for each player versus what they actually did with your GPS metrics. So down the bottom here, we've got just that simple drill table. Again, here is where you would split your session up into blocks if you want to split it up into blocks. Obviously, if you just want to have one table that shows everything in order, you'll be able to do that as well. And then I've got that block type, which I spoke about before. If you want to split up into groups and you're going to rotate through exercises, or even split up into 3 groups at the same time with concurrent exercises happening. So here's the most important part, our drill database. So here we've decided to use a database field in Smartabase. So just to explain what that looks like. So this is something that you can search by typing in. So if I just type in warm up, that will come up. But if I take that away, you'll see there's quite a different host of drills that you can pick from as well. So the way our database fields work is we can store a whole host of different metrics in our database. And when we click on one of these metrics, so if I just go for warm up, these will pre-fill for us. So you saw in here, I've got a category for warm up, which is general, and then a meters per minute. So when I selected that, that pre-filled my category and my meters per minute for me. So that as soon as I put in the time for my drill, it will calculate the estimated distance for me as well. So I thought I might show you the back end really quickly of what that looks like. So this is just my list of drills. A lot of my clients will have quite an extensive list of drills. So one thing just to mention here, in this current working example, this is a static database. So what you'll do is you will import all of your GPS metrics and your historical averages. However, when you want to update one of those averages, you will have to jump into your database and change that number. So obviously this particular workflow isn't suited for all clients, and a lot of clients want what you can do in Excel, which is to update these averages as you do each session. So we do have an R script that you can run locally that we have working for some clients. So you run this R script locally on your computer and we can have that update those averages for us. We're also working towards a live integration as well, so that all these averages will get updated in the background of your Smartabase site without you having to do anything. So every time if you're using Catapult or you're using StatSports integration, we can have those averages update live as soon as they're imported into Smartabase. Sweet, so I'll just jump back to here. So I've just popped in some nice little description fields. If you want to nut out, there'll be 4 groups, for example, and I've got a couple of different things in here that you might want to put. Obviously, again, a rugby league example. We've also got that head trainer field, that really skinny column that I put in my visualization as well. And then obviously the time if you want to assign that as well. Sweet. So we've got some tiles down here just to give you that estimated time and distance. And then we'll just jump to our second tab. So team lists. So I built this team list section to be really nice and basic. So with the first section here, we've got just the entire team list, and I've had this default to last. So if this is something that, for example, it might be a list of different positional groups or different competitive groups that you might have, we can default this to last. So every time that you enter the session, it'll just keep repeating. And if you want to make just a small little edit, you can just take that away. And I've also popped little boxes here. So if you want to break up those teams that you saw on the dashboard, you'll be able to do that. A nice little enhancement might be even labeling those teams, and we can add some little single single line text fields as well to make that nice and visual for you. Cool, so that's all we have for the dashboard entry. What I might just show you just a quick example of a client example of how this is visualized in our DBB when you're doing some plan loading. So we've got this little clip from West Coast Eagles just to show you how you might want to present this after you've done the session and after you've applied that session loading to your players. So if you can imagine you've got your integration with your GPS variables coming in, and then you've got your session planner as well that you've done up. So this just shows you how you can have your acute training load, some chronic loading, and then your plan loads as well in a bar chart. However, you might want to do this in one of our newer widgets that we've got in DBB called our aggregation table if you want to actually see the numbers and compare those. And I also have some other clients who just put them in some nice little simple tiles if they have some key metrics they're interested in looking at. Sweet, so that sums up what we're going to show today. See if James had anything to add.
Yeah, Carolyn, just for those watching the video here, this is just taken from a YouTube clip, which Glenn Stewart from the West Coast Eagles presented at the Sloan Analytics conference a couple of years ago. So you can find this clip, it's publicly available, and Glenn talks through a couple of principles around loading and availability and a couple of different pieces across this 27 minutes. So as a West Coast Eagles fan, I would definitely encourage you to watch this one, but it's also, Glenn's got a lot of knowledge to share, so I would recommend this one. Carolyn, just a question from me. Are you able to just fill out another block within that training session, that session planner, just so people can see how it's done live?
Yep.
So within just tabbing across to that session planner. Yeah, cool. And while Kaz is just going through this example here, please feel free to start typing in some questions. If you want to speak on the call, there's a function called raise hand. Feel free to press that, and we're allowed to pull you in to actually speak with us instead of typing.
Sweet. So I might just show you how the template works, which is pretty slick. So if I click speed day, that will just fill out the whole entire block for me. However, obviously I could go ahead and click each block if I like as well. So I hope that makes it really simple for you. But yeah, super easy to just like add in whatever you like if you've already templated it, or you'll just fill out the entire table as you go. So you can see I just put bunker defense in, and it's just pre-filled the skills and the meters per minute for me.
Great, thank you. Okay, for any questions, please feel free to write through. Really welcome them. As those questions are coming through, I will just encourage any current clients of Smartabase to reach out to their users. I know this is a relatively newish functionality within the system in terms of being able to have dashboards come through and click through and a number of different nice elements that have made this really usable. So please reach out to your own consultant in terms of how to contextually put this into your own environment and what you define as load and what metrics you're looking at. Would really encourage that. If you don't use Smartabase currently and you're interested in hearing a little bit more, you can get me, James, at fusionsport.com. We've got a comment in here from Owen McLean from the AIS, and Owen is asking, Kaz, have you ever come up with a workflow to match training planning with player availability?
Owen, would you be comfortable speaking more to your question, just so I can understand exactly what you're asking? See if you can raise your hand, might be able to get your question, get you to elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, just working that now. And Owen, you're on.
Hello.
Can
you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, it's just in terms of, so you've gone to the old trouble of having your player availability set up and your injuries and your players that might be modified. It'd be great to have that integrated with the training planning as well. So this is designing a training session that's for the athletes that are going to complete that as full. It'd be great that if you had player availability integrated with it, that you could then change what the modified athletes are going to complete.
Okay, do you mean as in just displaying who's available for the session?
Potentially.
Or, yeah, okay. So with our dashboard builder, and I'm sure you probably are aware as well, being where you're from, but we can, I'll just show you quickly. So on my front page here, because this is a bit of a master dashboard for my demo account, I have an availability section up the front. But what we can do, we can pretty much move that widget into the session planner. So if you want that to print on that second page, I was kind of trying to allude to it before. We can have the table pretty much display the same counts that you see on a different canvas. So if you just want to get the numbers of who's fully available and maybe who's modified available for training, we can pretty much grab this widget and pop it onto that session plan for you. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that'd be good, I think. A good addition.
Okay, awesome. Furthermore, we can even pop this dashboard into the session planner form. We do have some really cool embedded dashboard features. So if you want to see that while you're planning that actual list of who's available, you'll be able to do that too.
Any other questions coming through for Kaz? Okay, we might wrap it up there. Again, survey is going to come out. Please pop in your own suggestions for topics. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. It's james@fusionsport.com, or pop your questions in the comment section below or in that feedback form. Plenty of different ways to get in touch with us. We look forward to our webinar next week, same time, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And everybody have a great day. Thank you very much.